I spent years working for the government in a secret bunker deep under the desert. They told me we were monitoring power grids. That was a lie. We weren't monitoring energy. We were acting as a cage for something that should not exist. And last Tuesday, the cage broke. My job was supposed to be easy. I just sat in a dark, concrete room, watching computer screens for earthquake patterns. It was quiet. Too quiet. But then, right at 3 a.m., the sensors went insane. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a sound. It sounded like thousands of people screaming all at once, but the sound wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from inside the walls. It was so loud that my ears started ringing, and the concrete began to crack right in front of me. My boss, a man who hadn't slept in days, told me to just turn the screens off and walk away. But I couldn't. I looked at the security camera for the hallway. There was something standing there. It wasn't a person. It was a shadow, darker than the dark around it. The room suddenly got freezing cold, like stepping into a freezer. It walked slowly toward our reinforced steel door and placed a hand against the glass. It didn't have eyes. It had nothing but swirling black smoke where a face should be. I reached for the emergency alarm to lock the whole bunker down. My boss grabbed my wrist with a grip so hard it left bruises. He looked at me, his eyes wide with pure terror, and whispered, "Don't you dare. If you touch that button, you're telling it we're here." Then the lights flickered and died. We heard the giant steel door, the one that's supposed to be impossible to break, start to groan and bend inward. Something was pushing from the other side. Something massive. I ran for my life that night. I didn't look back for my boss or the rest of the crew. But when I finally reached the surface and tried to tell someone what happened, I found out the government had already erased me from existence. They didn't just hide the monsters. They made sure I never existed at all. When that steel door finally gave way, it didn't just break. It turned into gray dust. I didn't wait to see what came through. I sprinted into the dark, underground tunnels, the air thick with the smell of ozone and rotting copper. I could hear the screaming getting closer behind me, filling every corner of the bunker. I finally found the exit ladder and climbed until my lungs burned. I burst out into the night, but the desert didn't look like the desert I knew. The sky was the wrong color, a sickly, bruised purple, and it felt like the world itself was dying. I reached the nearest town hours later and found a public computer to search my own name, desperate to find a way to report what happened. I froze. The records didn't say I was missing. They said I had died in a massive fire at that bunker 3 years ago. There was a fake death certificate with my real name on it, and a picture of my childhood home, boarded up and abandoned. They didn't just hide the monsters. They erased the people who saw them, so no one would ever believe the truth. I've been living in the shadows ever since. I don't use phones, I don't use banks, and I never stay in one place for more than a few days. But the worst part? Every time I try to sleep, I hear that same screaming sound from the bunker, even though I'm thousands of miles away. It's not just hunting the government anymore, it's hunting me, and I think it's already inside my head.